Hey y'all, welcome to Kamira's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make apple pie with a quickness. You're not going to need to spend hours chopping apples and baking in the oven and making a pie crust. No, we're going to be doing a delicious fried apple pie that's going to be ready in a jiffy. Now, do y'all remember back when McDonald's used to have fried apple pies? When I was a kid, I could tear up one or two of those with a little, ice cream when the ice cream maker was working for McDonald's, real quick. But then they switched to that bake, thinking they were doing all of us a favor, which I like a fried apple pie. Nothing can really just replace that for me, okay? Now today I'm using Granny Smith apples. You can use any type of apple that's good for baking that you want. I like to use Granny Smith or the Cosmic Crisp apples. I feel like those have a really great flavor. Of course, the Granny Smith is going to be a bit more tart. I am just going to cut around the core because I don't have an apple core. I don't like to keep those little things like that around my house. And then I'm going to small dice the apple and I'm going to measure out about 3 cups. I actually saved the rest of the apple for another recipe. So you're just going to need about 2.5 to 3 cups. Should be enough for how much crust that we're going to have today. Okay. Now I am going to add 2 tablespoons of butter, baby. Yes, that's Southern Gold, right into a pan with all of my apples. And then I'm going to allow them to cook for about 2 to 3 minutes on a medium low. I just want to begin to soften them, and I'm going to put in a pinch of salt. Yes, a little bit of salt does belong in sweet recipes. Then I'm going to use a 1/2 cup of sugar, but you can sweeten to your likeness. If you like a really sweet apple filling, you could even add a 1/4 cup of white sugar, but this is perfect for me. I'm going to allow that sugar to melt into the butter. It should take about 1 minute, and then I'm going to put in 1/2 tablespoon of some cinnamon as well as some freshly grated nutmeg. No, child, don't go out to the store and buy the one that they blended up for you when it comes to nutmeg, because nutmeg loses flavor quick, so it's best just to have the nutmeg whole and then grate it in. Then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I'm going to let all these flavors come together for about 2 more minutes. Now at this point, the apples are fairly soft, but they're definitely not mushy, and you're going to see that the juice is starting to be released from the apples. You can't leave it that way because it's going to be too juicy for the frying process. So I added in a tablespoon of cornstarch mixed with a little bit of cold water. I've done this before with juicier apples, and so I use that same measurement. However, I feel like I should have used maybe a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons with these Granny Smith because they were just a bit drier than the apples I had used previously. So what I did is I went in with about 1/4 cup of water just to make a little bit more of a, I don't want to say gravy because it's definitely not that loose, but a little bit more looseness to the apples themselves. So there's a little bit more texture to them, make it a bit softer. So once I added in that water, I just cut off the eye and I just stirred it until the consistency was where I wanted it. Now for the dough, we are going to be using puff pastry. This is going to make a really delicious fried apple pie. It's crunchy, crispy, has a puff to it. Absolutely love it. And it's so easy. Puff pastry is going to come frozen, but you need to thaw it according to the package instructions. What I did is I just left mine out on the counter for about 40 minutes and it was thawed, but it still had a little bit of stiffness to it, which is what you want. You don't want it to become sticky or else it's going to become hard to work with. Just follow the lines of the folds of the puff pastry. It's already in perfect thirds, and then go straight down the middle. You're going to be able to get 3 of these fried apple pies from 1 sheet. Thankfully, we got 2 sheets, so we're going to be able to make 6. I'm going to load up each one of these sheets with some of the apple filling. I'm going to add in about 2 to 2.5 tablespoons of the filling in each one, but y'all know I don't measure. Okay, so just look and see, watch and learn. The whole idea is that you need to make sure that there is a solid rim left around the edges, because if there's not, you're not going to be able to make that seal. use a little bit of water on the ends. That's going to form a paste with the flour that's on the puff pastry. And then when you add on the top, you can lock it in almost like a glue and make that seal. Now, if you guys are ready to make this already and you think this is going to turn out well, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you feel like my instructions are clear and I'm teaching y'all some good, you're learning something new, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Guys, I post new recipes at least 2 times a week, and I'm always coming to y'all with those bold flavors. So go ahead and give your girl a subscribe. I want to give you guys a couple options if you may not have puff pastry available to you, or if it's just a little too pricey, because you know puff pastry can be a little bit expensive. Something else you can use since we are frying is empanada disc. Make sure you don't get the one with the natto because that's going to have that red coloring. But if you get just typical empanada disc, you can use those as well. They're cheaper than puff pastry. You could also use biscuit dough, roll those out, and you can fry those instead of puff pastry. And you're going to get about 8 of them with this recipe. So if you don't want to get puff, just try one of those options. Of course, the texture will be a little bit different if you want to explore those options, but it is still a great alternative. Also, I know some of you guys don't like to fry, so if you want to make this but you don't want to deep fry, you can follow everything just like you see here, but you can bake at 400 for 18 to 20 minutes. And I would also brush the top with a little bit of an egg wash just to get the color. And you can do that as well. If you guys want to see me do the recipe for the baked, then let me know and I can make a video on that. Now that I have all of my pies made, I'm going to set them aside and I'm going to create the topping now. I don't know about you, but I always had apple pies with a cinnamon sugar on top. So I'm going to combine half of a cup of white sugar with about a tablespoon of cinnamon and mix that up and have that ready because we're going to need that right when these get out the oil. I'm going to be using my cast iron skillet. Guys, this is the cast iron skillet that I did a restoration video on. If you saw one of my latest videos, this baby fries so good, y'all. I'm going to add in about 2 to 3 inches of oil, and you want to make sure that your oil does not get too hot. I'm keeping mine at about 340 to 350. And I am constantly going to be flipping them. I always like to do one first before I add in the rest. That's why you just saw me put in my one solo initially. But it's really important that you don't let the oil get out of control when you are frying dough. Because what can happen is that you can easily fry the outside and then the inside is going to be raw. You cannot let your oil climb up to like 360 and above that, because you have to remember when you're frying things like chicken, for instance, that will bring the oil temperature down quite a bit. Whereas with dough, it doesn't happen so much. So make sure that you're keeping the eye on like a 4, a 3, even maybe a 2 once you get that oil heated up, because that cast iron skillet is going to retain heat. I am going to fry these for about 4 minutes, and I'm going to constantly be flipping them. You want that beautiful golden brown color. What you don't want is that dark mark like you see that I did on one of them. I left it sitting and I didn't flip it fast enough, but it still came out delicious. Now, while these apple pies are still hot, we are going to coat them in that cinnamon sugar. You have to do it while it's hot, or baby, that cinnamon sugar just ain't gonna stick. And baby, that would be a catastrophe, because really, you got to have that cinnamon sugar on top, or else it's just not complete. When these were done, when I tell you guys that these were so good, so absolutely delicious, really, you're just going to have to make it yourself to find out. When I bit into these, the first thing that I wanted to do was get me a scoop of vanilla ice cream to just make the whole experience something else. But I'm going to show y'all how good these turned out. Look at this. You have a golden, beautiful crust. It's crunchy, it's flaky. You have a soft, sweet apple filling that is just so cozy and delicious, full of flavor. I need you all to let me know how many of these could you take down. Are you going to make this recipe? I feel like this is so perfect with a little coffee, a little tea, some ice cream. Oh my goodness. I know I'm going to see y'all next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye and God bless.